Hi everyone, I am back. We are working in Photoshop once again. And what I want you to do to start today's lesson is I want you to go up to File and New, and let's create a working document. As you guys know, I like working with 10 by 10. And again, that's 10 inches by 10 inches. And I do want to point out, make sure you're in inches. Historically in class, there's almost always one of you that will set up that file in 10 pixels by 10 pixels, and you will work for a little while until you realize that you can't fit anything on that tiny little document. So again, 10 inches by 10 inches. Right now my resolution is set to 300, and that is quite large. Again, this is just a practice document, so I'm going to size this down to 72 just to make it a little easier to work with. It will help your computer run a little bit quicker, and if you were to save this, you'd be saving it to share with me as a discussion post, so 72 pixels per inch would be appropriate anyways. And again, my color mode here will be RGB. I like working with a white background, so that's what I will leave mine set to. And I'll go ahead and create my document. Okay, so this is going to be the document where we are creating some shapes and filling them with color. But before we get started, I want you to go back to File, and I want you to go ahead and open and look for your sunflower. Okay, these will be the two files that we will be working with today. All right, so going back to my blank document. As you recall from last class, we were working with the selection tools. Again, those marquee tools, the lasso tools, and then the quick selection and magic wand tool. Okay. Now, those are selection tools, and they are fantastic for selecting areas of photos, but they can also be used to create compositions. So to begin with, I want you to grab your rectangular marquee tool. I want you to make sure that you create a new layer, because when we create this shape, if I were to just fill it with color on my background, it would literally put this on my background layer, and I would not be able to separate it from the white background. Okay, so I'm going to add a new layer, and as I use my marquee tool, I'm going to drag out an area. I'm going to grab a new tool that we have not used to date, and that is your paint bucket. Okay, now your paint bucket sometimes hides behind your gradient tool, but what I want you to focus on is that it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th tool down, and if you long press, you can grab your paint bucket. Okay, and don't worry about what your colors are right now. I'm just going to use the color that's set here right now, which is a blue color. I'm going to click inside my rectangular shape. Okay, you're going to see that immediately this is now evident on layer 1. Okay, so it's been placed on its own layer. And I want you to also note that you still have these dancing ants visible. Okay, anytime you see those, if you are not actively using them for one purpose or another, you need to get rid of them. They get in the way, and they will sometimes block other tools from working. So remember, deselect, Command, or Control, D as in dog. Okay. Again, that's on its own layer, so if I were to grab my Move tool, I can move this anywhere I want to. It's not locked into something else. Okay. I want you to grab your elliptical marquee tool. Go ahead and drag out a selection. Go ahead and grab your paint bucket again. Click to fill it with color and deselect. Okay. Now I want you to look at your layers panel. Okay. I've done this on purpose, but I want you to see that because I did not put this on its own layer, these two objects reside on the same layer, and they are going to live together, okay, from this point forward, unless I were to step back right now and correct my error. Okay. Now, I've done this on purpose, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply get rid of the layer in a moment, but I want to point out that this is really easy to do. It's a common mistake, so please make sure you're paying attention to your layers as you work. Okay. The other thing that you might notice is that I used my elliptical marquee tool, and when I filled that one with color, I ended up with this really soft border. And the reason for that is because my feather was still turned on. Okay, you may remember from Tuesday we had set our feather to 10 and then I backed it down to 5. I never reset that to 0. Okay, so the next time I used that, that setting was still working. So now I can just test it one more time. I've changed it to 0. I'll fill it with color, and you'll see, of course, that that feathering is now gone. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and delete that layer. I'm going to put myself on that layer, hit my trash can, and that's gone. But at this point, hopefully you understand, yep, easy peasy. I can use any of those marquee selections and fill it with color. Okay, those are classic shapes, very predictable. Okay, you can build on those to create other objects by mixing squares and rectangles and circles in whatever way you need to. Okay. The other tools, your lasso tools, are really great for more freeform drawing. So for instance, maybe you want some organic shapes in your work. Perhaps you're creating a background for project number 4, and you know, they don't need to be perfect shapes. So what I'm going to do here again is I'm going to create another new layer. I'm going to draw out my selection. Remember, ending where you begin. I get my dancing ants, and I'm just going to fill that with color. Okay. Same technique, I need to deselect to close that, or to get rid of the dancing ants rather. And this time I'll go ahead and add another new shape, but I'll make sure I hit new layer. I'll move to my polygonal lasso tool. Okay, I can click around, close it. Okay, again, I have another selected area. I'll grab my paint bucket and fill that with color. Okay, I'm going to grab my move tool and just move those so they're not sitting on top of each other. And I'm going to do this one more time. I'm going to grab new layer on my panel. I'm going to move to my magnetic lasso. Okay, and of course, this is not as useful because magnetic lasso works with color. It wants to trace something, but as you can see, it's another fairly handy drawing tool. I end up with something pretty organic, but what's nice about this is I used a similar sort of direction as I was drawing, and you'll see that I was able to create some straight lines and some more curved circular areas based on my hand movements. Okay, so again, paint bucket, I'm going to fill that with color. Okay. I'm going to stop here, and I'll be back in a moment to continue talking about color and how you can use that effectively in Photoshop.